Episode 158.
And this industry, I feel, is something that it has to be a very personal, passionate thing. There's a lot of self-pride in what I do, what a lot of technicians do. We're kind of like the unsung heroes of what's going on behind the scenes. You know, I'm not the figurehead where I work. Most of the customers don't even see me. And I think it's going to get more fun, more exciting as cars develop and with the technology that goes into them, and making you realize that actually diagnosing cars can be a lot of fun too.
Welcome, aftermarketers, to On Point from Remarkable Results Radio and a special interview from an auto care industry professional. On Point. Hello, aftermarketers throughout North America and around the world. Carm Capriato here, and thank you for listening to Remarkable Results Radio, heard on subscription services like iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, and even Spreaker. And welcome to episode 158 with technician Tom Meyers. This episode is brought to you by Federal Mogul Motor Parts, with brands like Moog, Felpro, Wagner Brake, Champion, Seal Power, FP Diesel, and more. They're the parts techs trust. Find out more at fmmotorparts.com. Today's episode marks the second interview with a professional technician. I've recently added the Technician Talk series to the podcast lineup, and I'm looking to interview technicians working gainfully in the aftermarket. It may be you or a team member, a friend, or one of your employees. If you are an industry salesperson who calls on shops, you may just have the perfect technician for the show. It's easy to get in touch with me on the contact tab on the remarkableresults.biz website, or a quick email to carm@remarkableresults.biz. Now meet Tom Meyers. Oh, by the way, you can get to Tom's show notes page by going to the website or keying in this URL, remarkableresults.biz E158, and E stands for episode. Thomas David Meyers, Tom, is employed at Taylor's Auto Service in Chapin, South Carolina. He's in a mixed role between lead tech and shop foreman, and he's carried both titles at 4 different shops since 1995. Now, in 2009, Tom Meyers was selected as the NAPA ASE Technician of the Year for the Chicagoland area, and that was a first for a non-owner technician. He is an ASE Master Certified with L1 certification, and he works on everything from computer diagnostics and engine performance to engine installations and rebuilding differentials. In the past 40 years, he has always focused on repair quality and the latest automotive technology. Now, we covered many hot topics like technician burnout, the value of Vision High-Tech Training and Expo for his personal training, a special way diagnostic solutions come to him, his work stress reliever, technician mentoring, telematics and future technology, his personal mentor that changed his outlook and attitude on his role in the industry, and the need for youth to enter our industry, and much, much more. Hey, you're going to like this very easygoing but impactful interview. So here we go with Tom Meyers. A warm welcome to Tom Meyers, technician at Taylor's Auto Service in Chapin, South Carolina, and an ASE Certified Master Tech with L1 certification. Hey, Tom Meyers, are you ready to go on point?
Yes, sir. I am. Looking forward to it.
Hey, great to have you here. Congratulations, 2009, the ASE NAPA Tech of the Year in Chicago. Boy, it was a first time as a tech only. Explain that to me.
Typically, from what I understand, the award is given out to, seems to be more owner/technicians due to the ability of them to be able to do a lot more community service type things. And when I received the award in 2009, they told me that it was the first time ever given to just a technician. I was not a shop owner also.
I understand that part because I have done interviews with ASE NAPA Techs of the Year, and they all seem to be owner techs.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. So how long you been wrenching, man?
40 years.
What?
Yeah, 40 years this year, actually.
You have a very young-sounding voice. Unbelievable. Wow.
Thank you.
Good for you. What is your biggest challenge at work today from a technology perspective?
Actually, I love technology. I think technology has been wonderful for the automobile industry. Starting out from where I was way back when in the late 70s, my challenge that I find with technology is being able to stay up on it, having the equipment to diagnose it, and actually getting great input from the car owner for what the car is doing.
Got it. Hey, so you were there for disc brakes?
Disc brakes when they came out?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Were you there for HEI?
Oh, yeah.
Were you there for TBI?
Yes.
And so on and so forth. So give me an idea of maybe decade by decade here. We'll do this in a very few minutes, though. You know, the changes between the decades that you, if you had to write a biography on you or something, you'd say, well, the 70s were like this and the 80s were like that.
The 70s, obviously, we had carburetors. Cars were in every 10,000 miles for tune-ups. It wasn't unheard of at 50,000 miles to do a valve job to an engine. The 80s obviously came throttle bodies, more emission things because the EPA was getting involved. Now you could go 50,000 miles on a set of spark plugs and ignition wires. You weren't having to adjust points. We got rid of those. We have electronic ignition.
And then everyone was saying, my God, this industry is going to go to heck.
Yes.
Okay.
And then obviously we had new emission things on cars, and everybody's like, oh, you just take that off and throw it away. That was everybody's initial thought process on it. You know, what was an EGR valve?
Yeah.
You know, what was its purpose? The 90s, we switched to multi-port fuel injection. No longer do we have hard starting cars when it's cold out. Now we're starting to get some gas mileage. You know, everybody's understanding what everything is doing now. I found it, well, once we got rid of carburetors, I was in heaven. And now in the 2000s, now we're dealing with direct injected engines as far as where the fuel injectors are. We're getting crazy gas mileage out of V6 motors. 4 cylinders are creating massive amounts of horsepower. You know, everything has a turbocharger on it. So for me, it's exciting.
So in the last, just say 2 months, has a vehicle come in that you'd say, look at the guys, come over here. Look at this. What the heck is that? And what's it doing? Or we heard about this. Now look, it's the first time we've seen something.
I did have an Ecotech motor, a Ford pickup truck come in.
Uh-huh.
It was an F-150. It had a 4-cylinder in it. And it was a 4-cylinder EcoBoost F-150 pickup truck. And I had to open the hood and see what it looked like in there because I couldn't believe we're putting a 4-cylinder in a pickup truck.
Now, I know a lot of guys that own trucks, Tom, and how proud can you be stepping out of that big old badass F-150 and saying, come in and see my 4-cylinder.
Yeah, and I actually drove it, and I was impressed.
Wow, good.
I mean, and the customer that owns it, he goes, I get 30 miles to the gallon on the highway in a full-size pickup truck, and he goes, has plenty of power. I mean, that was unheard of back in the, we all laughed at 4-cylinder motors in the 70s.
Sure you did. It didn't, no power, no speed, no chutzpah.
Exactly.
So what are you doing to stay current?
I try to do as much training as I possibly can that I kind of find on my own. Once a year, I make a trip to Kansas City it's called Visions. It's the largest trade show / training seminar in the country.
Vision High Tech Training and Expo, yes.
Yes.
Now this year, will you promise to hang out with me there?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
All right, yeah. We're going to get a gang together. I just want to let you know that.
Okay.
All right.
That's where I go to get re-energized to get me through another year. And that's where you pack a whole bunch of training into 4 days, and you come out of there with a whole nother perspective on what you're doing, and it motivates you to get through another year.
Oh, there's been so much talk about technician networking, and do you find that a really big value?
That is huge. That is huge. Years ago, shops, techs, we didn't talk to one another. You didn't want to let anybody in on a secret that you figured out. Nowadays, it's impossible to know everything, figure everything out. So networking with guys and trainers has become the thing to do, and I find it, I kind of use it at, phone a friend when you're trying to figure out a car.
Right.
So you have your list of guys that you can call and possibly help you through a problem or get an idea.
Do you have a network like that down in South Carolina?
No, I don't actually have anybody down here in South Carolina. Most of my communication ends up either being back in Chicago, or I have a couple of friends. One's in Minnesota, one's in Virginia, and it's people that I've met over the years.
So it's more of a national network.
Yes.
So work with me on this concept. Is there any value in having, there's an awful lot of owners that belong to 20 groups, and they get together, and they not only get together physically, but then they share over the internet, and they're connected as a group. Would something like that work in your area? And would it make shop owners a little nervous that all these techs from these competing shops are kind of working together, helping each other out?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I have actually called, other techs at other shops. I actually work with a couple of really, really good techs also. So we work together as a team. If we run across a really hard problem. And I don't think that should make any owner nervous, because it's your customer at your shop, and you are trying to supply the best quality service that you possibly can. And, that just because you're getting help from somebody else doesn't mean that customer isn't going to come back to you. So as long as the car gets fixed, in an allotted amount of time, and it's done right, and, they aren't necessarily even going to know.
Mm-hmm. Great perspective. Thank you. I'm talking to Bud Houston, a technical product specialist with Federal Mogul Motor Parts. Do you actually put products in the hands of the technicians?
Yes, absolutely. Anytime there's new product introduced, perhaps a new problem solver or a new technology, we keep that stuff on the van just because their local parts supplier may not have it available, and we think it's important to show them what's coming. And then seeing the part is really, especially with the new OEX, seeing the part and touching the part is something that changes perspective rather than just a piece of paper with a picture of the part.
Okay, so you put an OEX pad into the hand of a technician, and you've done this, I'm sure, hundreds of times. What do you see on their face when they see it?
You can tell they get it. In our industry, there's technology that we use all the time that you look at and you're like, that just doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to take your word that it works. You put an OEX brake pad in somebody's hand, and I just ask the question, why does this look so weird? And they're like, I bet it's to make it cool. They get it as soon as you put it in their hand.
So technicians holding your product and listening to your presentation, do you ever see the light bulbs go up? They raise their hand and says, boy, I've got a great idea for you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not only does that happen, every time I'm with a group of guys, I solicit ideas. I'm like, listen, a lot of the stuff that I've shared with you originated in a bay somewhere where the technician said, you know what, if you could do this, it would be really cool. And so the stuff that I get, I send up, to our engineering team and say, hey, could we do something like this? And there's things in the works, and there's some things that came out recently that originated in, hey, if you could do this, it would be helpful. Because at the end of the day, I think Federal Mogul's known in every line to be a problem solver, and not just solving a problem, but making an installation easier as well.
Federal Mogul Motor Parts' Garage Gurus is your go-to source for the vehicle training, technology, and answers you need to keep your next job on track. On-site, online, or on demand, the Gurus are here to help keep your business and your career on the road to success. Visit fmgarageguru.com. So you've been in the business a long time.
Yes.
And there's this thing called burnout.
Yes. It happens.
I seem to have hit a nerve.
Yeah, I think I went through the burnout syndrome, and I think a lot of that had to do with from when I started, back in the 70s, then the 80s. When I first started out, you did a lot of maintenance. It's all you really had. And then some of the technology was coming along. There wasn't the network of information and schooling that we have today. It became very easy to become frustrated. And the more you became frustrated, the harder it became. I mean, you're basically hitting your head against a wall.
You hit yourself against the wall. What do? Do you find someone to help?
Well, if it's like me, you get lucky enough to meet somebody that changes your entire perspective on the industry and makes it exciting again, gets the fire burning back in your belly, and ends up just re-energizing you and making you realize that actually diagnosing cars can be a lot of fun too.
Well, where do you find a guardian angel like that?
Actually, I got lucky and I ran across this gentleman. The state of Illinois decided that they needed to get into, as obviously EPA mandated, into emission testing, and back then it was called IM 240. Mm-hmm. And this gentleman happened to be the one that was called upon by the state of Illinois to be one of the trainers for them. And I was lucky enough to run across this guy, and he changed my outlook on it.
Wow, that's impressive to be able to say that about him. Can you say his name?
Sure, I can say his name, and I know for a fact that I'm not the only one who he has helped and changed. And this gentleman's name is John Thornton.
You're telling me that many people owe a rebirthed career to John Thornton?
Yeah, I say that because I've heard it out of people's mouths. And they say that they don't know whether or not they'd still be fixing cars today if it wasn't for this gentleman.
So he drove you to what? See things differently, to want to search for knowledge, become a diagnostician? What was the goal here?
Well, he actually came up with showing you how you can actually use a computer. This is something new in our industry back then. And neat ways to figure out problems without having to go. You actually use a different technique to figure out the same problem. And the technique actually becomes very more precise and more accurate and faster.
I'm so curious. Can you take us through a little of the theory you're talking about?
Well, one of the things that actually jumps into my head would be to check the compression on an engine. I mean, everybody's used to pulling out all the spark plugs, taking a gauge, screwing it in, actually physically, mechanically checking compression. It's kind of a long, drawn-out process. Some vehicles, it's very difficult to get spark plugs out of. Depending on where they are, some are under an intake manifold. It's pretty hard to crank the engine over if you have to take the intake manifold off to get to the spark plugs. So a neat trick is they actually use a current probe, an amp probe, and you put it around the battery cable. And you actually use the starter motor as a load device, and as your cylinder comes up on top dead center, it is going to draw so much current. So if you actually have a mechanical problem, when that cylinder comes up on compression, obviously the starter motor is going to draw less current because it's easier to spin past that particular cylinder. So you hope to see all the exact same current draws on a lab scope. And if you have one that's down, now you just pinpointed which cylinder you need to go to find out what's going on.
And that rebirthed your spirit, your attitude?
Absolutely. I thought that was neat. I mean, I'm kind of a
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Deep down kind of a computer geek.
Okay.
I spent some time in college still working on cars, but I was taking computer science and mechanical engineering majors, and so I kind of got into computers, and now I figured out a way I can actually use one to figure out what's wrong with a car.
Excellent story. Thank you so much for that. You told me you're working in a brand new building.
Yes, the building is 2 years old. It's an 8,000 square foot building. We have 10 bays. 9 of them have twin post lifts in them, and one has an alignment rack.
And your job?
Basically, I'm the head tech and / shop foreman. Anybody has a question, problem, they come see me.
Tom, come here, Tom.
Yep. And it is a position that I've held for, well, this is probably my 4th shop that I've done this at.
Okay. Now, do you like to do just diagnostics, or will you just travel back into doing mechanical?
I do everything. I like doing the diagnostic drivability stuff. Not, that always doesn't come through the door, and if a car comes in with a, bad engine, I can get dirty. I can put an engine in. So, I kind of cover the whole gamut of still what's going on in the industry.
Okay. We were talking a little earlier about you being reinvigorated by John Thornton. Tell me about getting under that vehicle, and how's your back? Are you getting sore at your age?
Actually, my back is finally doing awesome. 4 years ago, I think it was, I actually had to have back surgery. And ever since then, my back has actually been phenomenal. I have no problems there. Now the problem's in the shoulders. So
okay.
Picking your arms up over your head has started to present an issue. But you suck it up and you do what you got to do.
Got it. So talk to me about what you see coming up with technology and the autonomous car, data, who owns the data, telematics. How are you looking at that?
Some of it's kind of scary because I consider something a little bit intimidating until you actually get your hands on it, touch it, feel it, squeeze it, understand it. So some of the things they're coming out with seems to me to be a little intimidating. I'm not so sure about the self-driving cars. I once tried to do the Ford, where it parks itself. Mm-hmm. By the time you get done setting all that up, you could have had the car parked already.
Got it.
So,
but you just said something so important. Once you dabble in it, once you touch it, you feel it, you squeeze it, you say, okay, I got to learn this stuff. I mean, how hard can it be, right?
Yeah, actually, it some of it is pretty complicated, but luckily there's people out there that are already testing this stuff, figuring it out for us. They've devoted their whole life, or they're part of it to it, and they're willing to then teach us. That is one reason to go to Visions, because usually somebody there has already done the groundbreaking for us, and usually have some of the new technology coming in. And once you break it all down, it most of the time ends up not being as complicated as it first sounds to be.
Thank you. So you walk up to a shop, you see either the words automotive service or the words automotive science. Which one would prompt you to come in?
That's a great question. I've never run across that.
But I got you to think, didn't I?
Yeah, you got me thinking on that one. Probably the one to get you to walk in probably sooner would be automotive science, and that would just be because what is this about?
Yeah, what's this about? I guess the reason that I ask that of an awful lot of my guests is we are in a technical age. The car is. I don't think the consumer can appreciate what you do, how hard you work, all that you have to do to study, to learn. And I love the concept of somewhere in this industry we start talking about automotive science.
Yeah, and I think that's still a huge problem in the industry, is that consumers do not understand what it takes to fix their car.
Yeah.
They don't understand how much the equipment costs to just to be able to plug in and look at every system that's on their car. You have places out there that advertise, "All right, just come by and we'll just plug into the car. It'll tell you what's wrong with it." That doesn't work.
Drive-up doctoring.
Yes. So, and then behind the scenes, the cost of the training and the time involved that the technicians do, and it's all done on our own time. Most of the training that I have done in all my years is all on my own time.
Does your shop get paid for your diagnostic time, your true diagnostic time?
Probably 75% of the time, I would say that we come out right. The other 25%, there's always going to be that car that, is stubborn, takes up a little bit more time, and we may not be able to get all the diagnostic time that you have spent on it.
Do you chalk it up to just the learning curve?
Yeah, I chalk it up to the learning curve, and you keep that one in the memory bank, and you're going to run across that problem again. And the next time you'll know better to charge the customer more to figure that particular job out. You'll be able to get there faster.
Got it.
So,
hey, are you happy with the equipment that you have to get your job done?
Oh, I'm very happy with what my shop owner supplies us with. I'm also very happy with the type of equipment that's available to us. There's a lot of aftermarket companies that are doing everything they can possibly do to make sure that we have great equipment at our disposal to be able to diagnose these cars. And they spend a lot of time, effort, money developing these tools.
What's the latest diagnostic piece of equipment that the shop just purchased?
The latest one we purchased was Chrysler Y-Tech, which does the late model Chrysler vehicles. And that particular cost of that software, computer, and communication device is very costly.
And you must have all the equipment for almost all the platforms out there?
No. I wish we did. We cover quite a few. We have General GM, Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, and those are OE platform stuff that we have. And then everything else we kind of cover with aftermarket equipment from Snap-on.
Got it. Okay. So any major challenges at work that you take home, or do you have a great split between your work-life balance?
I try to keep a good split between my work life and my home life. Unfortunately, I don't bring my problems home, but they're always in the back of my head.
They're bubbling out there, huh?
Yeah. And people have told me that, I have actually somehow been able to figure out cars while I'm sleeping. And I mean, my mind just never stops. And for whatever reason, it's just there. And I'll wake up in the morning and go, that's what I got to go check. And I go to work and I check whatever came into my head. And sure enough, that was the problem.
So we're really not sleeping at night. We're solving problems.
Well, I still sleep. I think I'm sleeping. Obviously, my brain isn't necessarily sleeping, but the body is resting.
I know exactly what you mean, and I'll bet you most people that are listening to this say, yeah, I do my greatest thinking in the shower and while I'm sleeping, but I don't know that sleeping thing.
Right.
So what do you do to refresh, to burn off your stress? What do you do for fun?
My wife and I like to work around our house. We like to remodel our house. We go camping quite a bit whenever we get some free time. I actually like working with wood. I like to make like tables. I've made some end tables, some nightstands and stuff like that out of wood. I like working with wood. And when we get enough time, we go camping. And when I go camping, I turn the key off. When I get to where we set up and get into relax mode, I can shut the key off, and I don't even think about anything that's going on.
That's great. Glad to hear it. So here's a scenario. It's career day down at the local automotive technical college, and you've been invited in to talk to the seniors. What are you going to tell them?
That's a really tricky question, and I know that is something that our industry is really having a problem with as far as recruiting young talent. I guess the first thing I would talk is kind of explain what I do, where my career has come from and where I think it's going. And then you need to express to them that this isn't something to get into lightly. You have to be very passionate about this industry, I feel. And to be successful in it, you have to be passionate. And it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort. And as long as you're willing to put forth that effort, it will be very personally rewarding to you. And this industry, I feel, is something that it has to be a very personal, passionate thing. There's a lot of self-pride in what I do, what a lot of technicians do. We're kind of like the unsung heroes of what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not the figurehead where I work. Most of the customers don't even see me. I want them to make sure that they're willing to put forth the effort, and it will be rewarding. It's something that you need to make sure that this is what you want to do. And I think it's going to get more fun, more exciting as cars develop and with the technology that goes into them. But the days of the backyard guy, he's gone. He's going to be gone.
Take your word for that, right?
Yeah. And I don't know, I've tried to, over the years, I have mentored a few kids out of high school, successfully mentored some,
okay,
unsuccessfully mentored others.
What was the breakdown in the unsuccessful? I mean, if somebody was unsuccessful, what do you think the breakdown was?
I'm going to call it the passion.
Okay.
They thought that this is what they wanted to do, and they didn't have the passion, the
drive, the fortitude. The drive. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They just, this will be fun. And it is somewhat fun, a lot of fun for me, actually. But you have to have the passion. Over the years, I've run across some guys that have had it, and I've taught them. They've thanked me, and I get it. I actually get a lot of enjoyment out of that. That's an actual another way to stay interested in this business is I'm passing my knowledge on, and I don't have a problem teaching anybody anything that I know. I can't take it with me.
That's great. You're a giver, for sure.
Yeah.
Tom, when you were mentoring those young technicians, could you see the problem, the gap, the lack of passion right away, or did it take some time?
No, I think that's something that shows up pretty quickly. I can usually kind of tell relatively quick if this guy's gonna make it. It kind of shows through right away with their demeanor, attitude, and so you can tell. You can really tell.
Well, hey, listen, thanks for all that you do for our industry, for being a career technician, winning the 2009 Chicago ASE NAPA Technician of the Year, and for all your great insight. Thanks for sharing all this wisdom, like I said, and all your great stories. One last request. Share with us any words of wisdom that you live by or guide you each day.
Obviously, you have to have a great attitude for the industry. Don't let the cars get you down. You kind of have to stay positive. Find what little niche in the industry creates that passion that makes you want to go do it every day. Because there's a lot of different things in the industry that you can do. Something needs to spark that passion. If you keep that fire burning, you're going to enjoy going to work every day.
Hey, Tom, great words. Thanks so much for being on with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Tom Meyers. Wow, what a great discussion. Like two old friends catching up. I've got your show notes on Tom Meyers, more information on his background at the remarkableresults.biz/E158 URL. Hey, thanks for hanging out in the virtual audio realm. If you're subscribed on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, or Spreaker, then you found the smartphone app that suits you. Every new episode gets right to your phone. But don't forget the desktop. You can listen there, too. Hey, did you know that there are soundbite audio trailers for over 50 episodes on the homepage at remarkableresults.biz? It's called Clamor. It gives you a flavor of these episodes that may pique your interest. It's really a cool feature. Hey, I really do appreciate your engagement with the podcast and would ask that you help spread the word. Share every Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn post. Hey, I'm grateful for your support. Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from another inspiring aftermarket professional. Until next time.